This is Hawk Robinson with RPG Research, and you are listening to Mongers.
Eventually, the doctor doesn't emerge from the stairwell. It just, time goes by, and there's that proverbial 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And then 25 minutes in, suddenly a bunch of his guards start freaking out and pointing at the top of the arena, and everyone goes looking back out the balcony and all this stuff, and there's just air pressure blowing hot repulsor lift air down through into the balcony window, stirring up a big cloud of shit or whatever, and your ship starts descending right into the biggest open space that R4 can find, and he starts landing amongst the 10-foot rocks.
I'm good with that.
Your ship just shows up and just lands. Now, as far as you know, Haas might be driving. You don't know how far it's driving, but your ship just shows up and starts descending straight down. Anyway, it's going to be damaged. There's so many rocks, and they're all 5-10 feet tall, and there isn't a big enough space amongst them. So it's going to be picture a whole bunch of giant fingers poking up from the ground, and this thing's going to come and be mired on them, and the landing gear is going to drop and not drop enough for a safe, you know what I mean? He's going to land it on these random rocks. There's enough width. Hey, yay, in here. But your ship barely fits in it, but it's literally and kind of tilts on an angle from some of the rocks that are higher. But he just freaking brings it down. Crunch.
Just give me a second here.
Sure. You want to pull up the stats for your ship? Do you remember how big it is? What?
Okay. I just rolled percentile. I gave myself a 1% chance that, anyways.
Your ship is about 24 squares across and a good 30 or more in length. And then looking at the gladiator pit, have a look at the old gladiator pit here, call this up. You can see what's going on here. Drop a ship that's that big. It's just, it barely fits in the whole place. And, part of one tail fin is up on a wall, and a bunch are on the rocks, and it's just comes down. Now, luckily, there's enough points of rock to hold several pieces of panel up that these rocks will sustain weight, but panels are getting dented, underside of things are getting pierced because the underside of your ship isn't designed to land flat. It's, the landing gear, you know what I mean? So your ship's definitely gonna need some serious body work underneath. And the bay doors that drop straight down won't drop because, again, it's pinning them. Now, the front ramp that's right under the cabin, right? He's brought it in with the nose facing south, so you might be able to get that ramp down. Or there's a top hatch. There's a dorsal hatch, too.
Well, it doesn't really make... and I'm pretty sure a droid wouldn't fly the thing in there, land it, and us not have access to some way in.
Who says the droid? Maybe it's your drugged-up space hippie that you just pulled out of stasis. Because you were like, I need a pilot. Check things out. Get things going. Okay, man. And you left him and Arthur on the ship. And all of a sudden, without being ordered by you, he just shows up. Now, I might also say that, Leth, you talked to Arthur, right? You have a private channel? Because you were research Arthur, blah, blah, blah. Or you just talked to Arthur on the open channel?
Unless I specifically say otherwise, I'm speaking to Arthur on the open channel. Okay,
so you did over here, blah, blah, blah. You heard a weird Arthur being chippy, which is amusing at first, and being quirky, and then all of a sudden he just, brings the ship. You're didn't do the math right away. It's oh, shit. Sure enough, right into the gladiator.
So I'll turn to Darga and completely compose, say, Your Worship, you'll have to forgive the intrusion. Apparently one of my companions is suffering a bit of a medical emergency, and the good doctor has seen fit to take him aboard the ship. Don't worry. As soon as he's on board, we'll have him clear your arena, but I do care about my companions.
as any gangster would with a guest who just, airlifted a yacht into his backyard. He's upset. He's asking, what the fuck? That kind of thing. My lord, would like to know, what the hell, man? Why have you dropped your ship in our beautiful arena? There's guards that are lining up, they pull guns on you and all this shit type of thing. And like I said, very calmly, you just tell them how it is. Ooh, what the fuck? What is this? Get this ambassador out of here.
And then I'll, kind of turn, while he's doing his freak out, kind of turn away and go over the comms. R4, we're going to have a serious talking about this, but later.
Wait, why exactly? What will you need to talk to R4 about?
So, Leth, you get caught up to Merrick, and they get out to the front, the little courtyard with the wall and everything that doesn't quite work with the doors and everything, and you see the ship fly overhead, and it just goes over the building and then down the back and, just disappears behind the building. And then a few moments later, Rahal's on there giving him shit.
Well, good doctor, your little friend the droid just saw fit to land the ship on top of the rocks in the arena.
I'm not quite certain how much of a little droid there'll be left to speak with after I get finished with him.
Indeed. Anyways, keep me posted on Merrick's status.
Okay.
I really would hate to lose the big guy.
Back through the building we go.
Okay. And as you stated earlier, open channel, unless stated otherwise. Everybody hears this. Arthur hears this. Arthur was told that if he might be disassembled. The repulsor engines immediately fire, and the ship begins to lift off.
Arthur, command code.
I'm not saying I'm stealing the ship and leaving, but obviously he wants to I did wrong. I will fix this. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Right. Anyway, it starts lifting off. And command code, yes, go ahead.
Command code Aurelia.
Okay. The ship halts, and it's hovering, and it's, blowing up dirt and everything, and sorry, I believe I get a willpower. I believe I get something. Yeah, okay. It halts, waits for further commands,
and we pick up speed.
Okay. Matt, Arthur starts dicking around, and Jay does some kind of override code or something. You don't quite catch the name, and the ship immediately halts in the air. But now it's hovering above balcony level, and the repulsors and everything are kicking up dirt, and the repulsor wind is pushing into making a mess.
Good doctor, if you would please, would you prefer the ship to be landed in the courtyard or another nearby location? Either way, you're going to have to stop kicking the dust in here, or our host is going to kick us to the curb. Or worse.
I didn't realize it was kicking up that much of dust. I was simply trying to get Arthur to stay where he was. Arthur, please attempt to softly land the ship.
At this point, as long as he doesn't just shut it right down, get it down and get out, the damage has been done. We'll deal with that later.
Oh. Well, you heard Rahal.
I did. Do you remember that great reference that Ryan made as the android? The dog has two masters. They're at the park, and suddenly one walks one way and one walks the other, and the dog just kind of looks left and looks right, gets confused. You guys own this ship together. He knows it. And it's like, well, maybe this. 80% chance that Mr. Quirky right here. The ship comes down, slower this time, and just descends upon the broken points once more, and the repulsor engines power down. Not so long, because they're carrying this medical droid more than doing much for it, right? Back through the front courtyard, back down to the locker room, back past Poser,
where everything is just covered in dust.
They left the door open, just
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Bout to the outside door, and there's Zin standing out there, looking at the ship, looking around, completely covered in shit. All his wonderful, colorful ghillie suit just coated in dust and stuff, and he's sitting there and he's just kind of looking.
Oh, well, looks like it might be better camouflage.
Anyway, he just stalks off towards the ship, and you guys mentioned dropping the ramp, so the nose ramp, under the front drops down, and Zin just climbs aboard and disappears into the ship. You direct these guys, the goons, to take Merrick towards the ship, get him in there, right?
Indeed.
You want to do the Merrick blade? That's still the plan. Poser, you're still meditating until retrieved by the doctor, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
And Rahal.
Oh, me.
Oh, you. Can I have a persuasion check for, your obviously upset Hut that twice you're, kicking dirt in his front lawn and all that kind of stuff to calm
I'm gonna
things
need
down.
something else.
I want one for what you said
display.
before. I want one before, and then I want another immediately one with I'm going to jack the DC by 5 because it's injury to insult. So we're leading off with our basic grovel and
So yes, I rolled a 6 with my bonuses, got 20, and I'm like,
okay. So hang on, that's your first one. That was your first apology.
Oh,
Or
okay.
Retrosaurus. First apology, I should ask for persuasion. You nail it with 20. They kind of calm down. And then this jerk off lifts up again and starts sticking around hovering and comes back and it all starts up again. So go again and make it good.
25 this time, a little better.
I did up the DC. I'm not saying the last DC was 20, but I did up
the
by 5.
DC, and I'm just like, haha.
All right, so let's have it.
Your worship, I beg your forgiveness. This is so embarrassing. I just hired a new pilot, and apparently he thought it would be a good idea to try and reposition so he could get the nose ramp down. It's an embarrassment to me. Today is just not my day, your worship.
Okay.
So,
his large green eyes narrow dangerously at you, and it looks like he's about to, ask for the pilot's head, or maybe worse, yours. And then you literally see that little light bulb go on, and he's like, understandable, like to meet this pilot. And you can tell he's got something in mind. Something profitable as opposed to gory. A salesman that's like wants to turn, what better than turn a bad situation into a profitable situation? You know that look.
And, I'll just bow low as soon as he makes the request. I will see to it personally.
Diplomacy under pressure is not something that is new to you. Deals, weapon trading, this comes from your past. And I think it's time not just to have a look what's under the hood in Dr. Leth, but let's sneak a peek at the back of your brain. We're going to roll back several years, I would say, at that point when there was a certain Lord Tyrannus, if that was his real name, stomping around, making deals, making clones, smoozing the separatists, getting them in line, getting them going, rallying them up, rallying support. Count Dooku. Gotta love Christopher. Gotta love Christopher Lee. Count Dooku making the rounds. Our scene goes to the galactic map, spread straight across, zooming from Coruscant all the way out the Hyderian Way, past where our story started in Brentall, past Aquarius, out to where the Hyderian Way doesn't branch off to the Gordarian Reach to get to Felucia, where we did our little jailbreak. No, you continue on the Hyderian Way out to the Outer Rim area. Not the tip. We're not going corporate sector yet, but just off of the Hyderian Way near Telos. Some might remember from the second Knights of the Republic game. A special place. The place of Rahal Oberys's origin. A place named Sereno. The scene falls down on a planet and whips through a cloud cover, really not even taking in the technology, the city level, to an expensive looking, I want to say warehouse, I want to say factory, but it's more of an estate that has a back lot attached to it. So the front is all Vienna mercenary white marble pillars, and out the back beyond the gardens, the factories, the lots, they start immediately. Tight control over one's own domain. There isn't a drive out to work. This military family has its operation right under its nose. But it does have interests abroad. And a very young Rahal packed his bags 3 years ago under his father's orders and went to not work with the common man, but to learn to manage them, to manipulate them, to keep them in line, to keep the factories going, to keep the weapons flowing, to learn the mercantile aspect, to deal with the commerce, the economic system. Mentoring under one of your father's closest friends, I wouldn't say retired, but sort of living on a retainer and looking after the old school interests of your father and the family, a loyal retainer. Dwight is what everybody called him. You don't even remember his full name.
Some things just aren't that important.
Took you under his arm, treated you like his own son, like he was an uncle. You liked Dwight. He was good to you. He was very, very shrewd. He was very cheap. He was very efficient. And he was I wouldn't say kind, but he turned everything into an advantage in a way that you could learn from him just by watching him. He turned everything to an advantage, he turned everything into a lesson. And all you had to do was hang around him to pick up stuff, let alone him turning to you and explaining what just happened. Proving your own intelligence to Dwight, where you could just observe and learn. Because when he went into a meeting, you were seen, but you were never heard. He didn't want you to back him. He didn't want you to, he just let you watch. And then after, he just asked you questions. What did you see? What do you know? What did he do wrong? What did I pretend to do wrong? That kind of thing. Bang, 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 bang. There's like a quiz after all of it. And you were really, really good. And he never even told you in those days, did you do well? Did you do not? It always ended with your last question answered. His last question answered with a, like he was mildly surprised, at least somewhat satisfied with all the answers. Returning home now, living with the labor force that built these weapons that they were being sold, mostly legit to military operations, maybe some not. A military man retired into the military trade of weapons dealing your family was known for. Your father, above the actual business side of it, his name, the family name, and the big decisions going across his lavish, ornate desk in his home office, in the villa, in the estate. But the real deals, the real drudge work, the real footwork, the knock, make sure this stuff comes together, that was Dwight. And that's what you learned. The in the mix salesman. Not the guy that looks at people like their paper going, this percentage layoff, that percentage gain, this percentage not net paper. He was down there. He met the people and he chose worker to worker, not these 5 people worked efficiently enough on this shift and those 4 have to go. He wanted to know more about them. He wanted to know what motivated them, and he manipulated them. And people that you thought your father would fire or kill or keep, Dwight always seemed to do something a little different. And when you asked him on it, he always had a really, really good reason. And you think you learned a lot from him. You certainly picked up the Proconian accent. Coming home now 3 years later, you walk differently, you talk differently. You're your own man. I'm not saying you modeled yourself after Dwight. He was sort of he had a mannerism about him, kind of like Wimpy from Popeye. I'd rather pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. But he had just sort of a light, airy, unthreatening way about him. But he kept you talking, and he learned a lot from you really quickly. And then next thing you know, last nail hammered into a coffin that was a business deal, and he walked away. And a lot of the times he had you, and they didn't even know it. You had your own style, your own way of negotiation. He taught you a lot. Now you return home, spending so much time with the workers out in that sector, out in that area of the planet, picking up the Proconian accent. You find an entire armored entourage. It's your father's best, polished, clean. This isn't visiting. This is your dad putting on a show for someone that's coming.
Well, this is quite the welcome home. I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah. Maybe Dwight reported how well you're doing. Maybe your father's actually proud of you for once.
Yeah, right.
The men acknowledge you. Nods. Curtly, no salutes. But, the men lined up, the polish and everything, they recognize the young master. And they give you the respect you deserve as the second-born son and third in line to this little business empire that's growing out of this military.
Just remember, you're the second son.
Believing that this is all for you. Unfortunately, by the time you get up the steps to the front door, in the front lobby, you can hear your father laughing and talking with other men. You head towards the parlor. And as you drop your bags and are greeted by servants who take them, and as you sort of dust yourself off, ready to present yourself, your hopes are dashed. Through the doors, you see your father at ease, happy, refined, even less military of a dick than he used to be, in the company with your brother, who is just acting like he owns the whole place already. And there's that proud father that's just waiting to retire and give it to him, and a lord. A tall, white-haired man with such a presence of refined dignity and power. You feel it. No, you more than feel it. Rahal, you sense it. You sense this man's power. His greed, his determination, his edge. You've always been able to read people. You could never explain it to your parents. You always had this feeling well up inside you when people were so greedy or so dark or so benevolent and so kind for their own good, it could affect a business deal and you could take advantage of it. Dwight figured you out pretty quick. He called it your edge, and you've used it. You're looking through a doorway at a man who's standing in the middle of a parlor, who hasn't even turned his focus to you, and you feel this man's power, and your edge just goes nuts. This is the guy that you need to ingratiate yourself. This is the guy that your father looks up to. You've spent your whole life under your father's thumb. You spent your whole life looking up to your father, waiting for someone to come through those doors that your dad actually respected, that your dad actually wanted to please. He treated everybody like they were beneath him. This guy, he's literally sucking up to. You've never seen this. And a moment or 3 years away too late, you can feel that a deal has already been struck. That the people that are in the room where it happens is that room, and you weren't there. And now they're sort of having a celebration of toast. And, let's wrap this up kind of thing. And it's all going to your brother.
Well, of course it is. Pretentious dick. As per usual. Well, really though, what else am I going to do with an opportunity presented to myself like this?
Sorry, everything so far has been your instinct.
Yeah.
Dwight's first lesson was, no matter how bad a situation looks, verify it. Get in there, dig. There's always something more.
Straighten myself up as best I can, and I'll stride through the doorway. Father, I have returned.
You couldn't have taken time to clean up? I'll make a point of looking him up and down because he's not wearing what he should be in front of this man.
Brother, you're back early. I don't think we were expecting you for another week, were we, Father?
Trying to sort of cover you, and I'm not saying your brother's helping, but, he's trying to deflect your father's obvious disappointment that you didn't take a moment to, refresh, clean, represent.
Terribly sorry, Father. I'll certainly do my best in the future. But you see, we finished far ahead of schedule, so I figured I might as well make an early stop home.
Just coldly watch him. Adjust my demeanor from that casual thing when you described his father as being casual when he walked in. No, it becomes slightly more alert because there's definitely something not right with him coming back like this.
Sure.
Like he should have taken the time to go get cleaned up. He knows how he's supposed to present himself.
All dad's back. The disappointment, the expectation, it all comes back in a heartbeat. And a very awkward silence is exchanged between the two of you. Your brother, sensing this, kind of looking back nervously at Lord Dooku, says,
Father, let's introduce him.
Knowing it's not his place to turn to Lord Dooku and do it himself, but he's like,
well, you're here now, huh?
Oh, please.
Comes in.
Introduce him.
Yes, of course. My lord, may I present my younger brother?
And he grabs you, comradely around the shoulder and kind of shakes you,
This young man has been overseeing our operations on the south side of Sereno at the poles, and our father's closest friend and best man has taken him under his wing. How is Dwight? Oh, now, there's a man you should meet, my lord. And
a disconcerting scowl from his father realized that he shouldn't even brought up Dwight. And Dooku is just patiently waiting for something. Your brother isn't saying what he should. He's trying to soften the situation, but he's failing badly. And he just kind of stutters away from what he was saying and is just
Have you not been able to be your own man? Introduce yourself.
Too true, Father. That was the whole purpose of my journey in the first place, so you told me.
Was there an accident? Did you bang your head? What have you forgotten? How to speak to your betters?
My lord, he makes a joke. My brother spent so much time with the common man, he's picked up a little bit of their Braconian accent,
he says, hinting, kind of slapping you on the back, what are you doing, man?
What can I say? It just seems to roll off my tongue. You'll have to forgive my father and his rudeness. I'm sure he's a little off today with my surprise visit. Allow me to introduce myself, looking over his shoulder at his father, disapprovingly, with mocking the stares that he's been getting.
Striding forward towards Lord Count Dooku himself.
Yep, just walking right up to him.
Yep.
And I bow low. My name is Rahal of the family Oberys, which I'm sure you are aware.
There's a pause, and the man sort of half turns towards you, holding the drink that his dad gave him. An eyebrow goes up, and he just says one word.
Indeed.
And then he turns his attention back to your father, hands him back the drink, politely excuses himself. He has other things and matters to attend, and curtly, dismissively, and it's almost as if you guys unreflexively just back out of his way. The man turns and strides from the room like he owns not the room, the house, your father, the planet. And as he passes you, your edge, there's like a chill. I'm not saying there's something wrong with this guy, but here's a guy, I'm not saying this is a guy that takes what he wants. Here's a guy that's at the top of his game, has it all, and is running around, turning the galaxy into sheep. And he's your shepherd, and he's also the wolf. And he leaves. And the three men stand for a moment in silence. Brother, afraid to speak before your father does, just sort of turns and goes and starts packing up like the bar and that he serves.
1 second. Okay. At least offer your brother a drink. We haven't lost our manners.
Oh, yeah, yes, Father, of course. Rahul, come, have a drink with me. Let's celebrate your early return.
And you come over and he hands you a drink and quietly says, and
you not luckily coming in late enough to not completely destroy this deal with Dad.
Puts a couple ice cubes in a tumbler and hands you some cognac, which is really the wrong thing to do.
I should say, ouch.
His brother's like really hopeless as far as etiquette goes.
Which one of you has been with the commoners?
Yeah. But unlike you, okay, your father scoffs at your brother's actions, but he doesn't correct him. He doesn't pointedly point out his mistakes. It's almost like your brother just keeps getting a free pass, and it's like your dad's disappointed and scoffs at him, but he'll get it later. He'll get it eventually. Who else has he got? He's the firstborn. He still acts like it's on your brother, or what else can I do?
And what brings you home early?
Well, like I said, we finished ahead of schedule. Apparently, I had a knack. Well, according to Dwight, anyways. We closed the 2 munitions deals back on Tellus, and apparently, I don't know. It's hard to read that, Dwight.
Honestly,
says your brother, astonished, breaking in.
Honestly, brother, that's good news. That's great. We're ahead of schedule. Isn't that great, Lord? That's something we could tell Count Dooku right away.
Obviously, in his naivety, you would never expose your trump card to the guy you're doing business with. We'll get you the shipment early. It's late, it's extra, it's more, that kind of thing. Your brother's no head for business.
So you brought us something more? If you're done early, what else have you accomplished?
Well, like I said earlier, Father, I am my own man now. There are some things that you're not going to be privy to when it comes to me now.
Seeing that as a cue for a fight, your brother steps in and grabs your shoulder and says,
Father, he's back early. Isn't that enough? You said, let's get you cleaned up, right?
Isn't, looking at Dad like he's still not presentable,
I just turn my back and walk out of the room.
Well, it's nice to see that some things don't change. Swirl the cognac in the glass.
Take the ice cubes and giggle.
Just take a sip. So what was Lord Dooku doing here? He asks his brother.
Says we are part of a collective now. We are going to separate from the Union and become our own part of the galaxy, away from the Senate, on our own decisions, a collective of the nobles ruling these worlds on this entire side of the galaxy, brother. And Count Dooku is one of the pioneers that are making this happen, and he came here to see Father and wants us to supply him. He's going, he's
excitedly you learn how the business deal. We've been chosen as one of the main suppliers. Wow. Obviously Dooku's got a whole bunch of people on strings, but it's still an honor to have the guy come to your house and thank or shake the hand of the guy that's making it happen. And that's why he was here. He was just checking on things, shaking the old man's hand. It's a done deal. He approves of that you can handle the orders and stuff. This is obviously your hard work. Numbers that come from Dwight to go to Dad's desk, those are your numbers that he showed Dooku. That's your hard work that he's telling Dooku, look, I can handle your orders just fine. And it's now coming relevant that your brother is saying, totally ignorant, not even putting together that whatever Dad had you do out there came home early. So your brother's going on about how great, it is that our family, Dad, has impressed Dooku that he had to come here early and really see if the numbers we were running him were true. That we could not only fill the orders, but get it done early. And we did. And we were having a little drink. And then you show up. And then all this happened. It's still going right over his head.
You really are oblivious to this, aren't you, brother? I'm not going to lie. Separating from the Republic, that's going to be a good thing. That's going to open up some trade sectors we never had avenues before. We can renegotiate acquisitions. This is going to be very good for us, brother.
Exactly. So why can't you and Father see eye to eye on this?
Because Father hates me.
He doesn't hate you, brother. He just hates the way you act.
He didn't send you away for 3 years. No, you got to stay cushy here. I was backslagging on shuttles from sector to sector, trying to find acquisitions for our munitions factories. I was negotiating with Nemoidians. Have you ever spent more than a minute with a Nemoidian?
You know they can't take the fumes at the factories, he says defensively, how I break out and I'm allergic to. Anyways, like, kind of apologizing why he can't actually stand the position you were put in. I break out in a rash.
I'll re-enter the room after. Give it a goodly time for them to get him cleaned up and have their drink.
There's a lovely scene where the brother baths him and all. You don't want to see that crap. You don't want to see that.
That's a little Caligula. For me.
Sorry.
I'll walk away.
Hey, you missed my bits.
So some time goes by, you get cleaned up, and your brother attends other matters. And the servants come to you, and you are summoned.
Other people's baths. That terrible scene is caught in my head.
I'm sorry.
Scrubbing you.
I'm sorry.
Gee, brother, I missed you.
I've been practicing on... I missed you, brother.
Just like, yeah. Okay, thanks for bringing me. Now I'm there.
The live action turns into anime. So, a short while later, you get rid of the business suit and the well-to-do clothes that you're used to that are factory suitable, and you get back into the lavish silks and satins and capes and the real Lando get-up, that a young nobleman of the soon-to-be separatist worlds pre-war.
Borrowed from a Furian's closet.
Yeah. He does have style, right? Got all the capes. They're all lined with like bright red and pink. You have no idea why. So, and the gold. You're summoned. The servants come and tell you that your father awaits you in his offices behind that huge, lavish desk. The man that doesn't even have to stand up. He sits there behind his wall of a desk.
Yeah, and he's not compensating for nothing.
And lectures you from on high.
I should almost take that personally, huh?
I know. You want to go up there and
character, that can hurt.
Get up. The servants take you through the huge double doors. Droid security, mostly droid servants. There actually isn't a lot of people to interact with here. Your father likes it that way.
Oh, yes, he does.
You have a real live cook, though. You have a real live guy at the door. And you have mostly live lieutenants and soldiers outside for the throngs of a military presence of droid soldiers, droid servants, that kind of thing. Make your long way up to his upper offices. Being let through gigantic double doors. Huge 15-foot tall crystalline windows dominate the one side of the room, letting in natural light upon a sea of dark crimson carpet for 40 feet back to this huge desk, some bookshelves, rare vases, and some militant weapons and paraphernalia along the walls, and a mini bar on the one side, which mostly goes for show and untouched by
I apologize. I don't have a mini bar.
Sorry.
I have a
what do you
bar
call it?
With a droid attendant.
And on to the side, tucked in a corner, a full bar with a droid attendant for guests and important clients.
I stride into the room, cape flowing behind me, straight to the bar. I elbow the droid attendant out of the way. I reach to the top shelf.
Okay.
I grab his finest Corinthian whiskey, skip the ice, 3 fingers in a highball, give it a shake, give it a sniff, a sip.
Okay.
And then I turn to my father, still behind the bar, and say, "You wish to see me?"
Well, you could pour me a drink. You seem to have found your place.
He just looks over at the droid. Well, you heard him. And walk out from behind the bar.
Okay.
But
the droid holds out his hand for your bottle of the rare stuff.
It's coming with me.
Okay. He reaches and you leave, and he goes back to his nozzle and he just starts doing that Fifth Element pressure sprayer, you want some more? That guy. I was waiting for that, but he took the bottle, so I was like,
Yeah.
So there he is holding.
At least you've remembered what we drink. But you haven't done such a terrible job that I don't owe you at least one boon. What do you want? Minus the bottle, of course. We need to pick something. As I said, you've done a wonderful job and returned early. The sooner you pick your boon, the sooner you can be on your way.
I just shake the whiskey around in my highball. Well, First off, Dwight sends his regards. He told me to tell you if something terrible was to happen to that imbecile Ephirian, that he would not be upset if the company was to be left in my hands.
This draws immediate scowl from your father, that you would imply that, an accident could be possibly thought of, let alone arranged for your older brother and favorite heir of your father.
Really? We can speak of such accidents?
Father, I see a sense of
And my sense of humor? Know your place.
You just made how many millions of credits off of 3 years of my time while you sat here entertaining the Count? I understand you've put yourself in a position of prominence here, but you need to understand where your position comes from. Things aren't so good down there in the factories.
So your claim is that without you, I would cease to prosper? That sounds more like a threat. And what would you know of what I do in my position? How I spend my time to better this family and the others around me. I understand you become fond of Dwight. I'm fond of Dwight as well, but he's just one of many. My interests and the people that I interact with span halfway across the galaxy. Not just one man living amongst the commoners. And you seem to be so proud of that.
This common man you speak of, they're the reason you have this fortune of yours and interests that can span half the galaxy.
You do understand that without myself and people like me, the common man has no drive, no purpose. That's what he is there for. To place yourself as a bridge between the two worlds is a very, very tenuous bridge. The insult you presented just entering the room that way, no consideration for your betters. And you continue to provoke me with this accent, this bastard language that you're going to keep speaking in my house. It needs to cease.
I can take the hint. Not another peep. Button, do the button your lip symbol, take a sip, shake the bottle in his direction, and just walk out the door.
This boon that I spoke of expires the minute your foot crosses that threshold, and I'll not offer twice.
So I'll just turn to him and look. Fair enough. Give me a cushy job somewhere, preferably off-world. Somewhere as far from you as I can really be.
How far would you like to go? You can go back to your common man and continue to do my work. I do appreciate the grunt work you've done for me, and the fact that you've managed to make Dwight's life much simpler. You pick the world, and I'll provide the ship.
On second thought, Father, maybe I will stick around the world, just to be a bit of a thorn in your side.
A thorn in my side? Take a bigger man than you.
Make me an acquisitions officer on one of your supply stations. Something nice and cushy. And then at least I'll be off-world.
Well then, for you, Telos it is. Stop by and see your brother Ephirian before you go. As you dressed yourself from his closet, I would like to see the things that I purchased for him returned. His gifts are his gifts, not yours.
Yeah, he ain't got no gifts but the ones you gave him. I got my own. Peace.
That's an outline. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Walking out the door, right? The droid kind of cocks its head at you and sort of slowly just shyly mimics the symbol with its droid clamps. The piece, just kind of like as you go by.
Am I armed?
Oh yeah.
Do I carry a dress
Oh
weapon?
yeah. Oh yeah.
I blow the droid's head off. That's enough. I'm not taking that from a droid. I have to take it from him.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So
Goodbye, droid.
you walk out, and you walk in and you look over at the droid who just slowly begins making the little peace symbol, and then stop cold as his head explodes from an energy bolt. And you slowly turn, and your father's smoking blaster in hand already has his head down looking at his papers, and his one hand is reaching to turn a page, the other is returning the blind shot pistol back to its holster.
What a dick.
And all without looking up.
Yep, all without looking up.
That's good, though.
You walk out, and the droid, they close the doors, and the scene fades back from Sereno shakily as the camera is a little disturbed in the camera crew. The exchange between father and son, young Master Rahal Oberys, and his father, Lieutenant General Rahal Oberys Sr. And we'll see you next time on We Shot First. I'd like to thank an old friend of myself and Matt Witt's, Rob Hammond, for his cameo performance as Rahal Oberus Sr.
Yes.
General Oberus.
Sorry for being such a dick.
Colonel Oberus.
That's totally how Rahal would be.
Who do they put?
Superior?
Yeah, it's
No
like
problem.
who do they put in charge of the big supplies, like in the war buying in the Nicolas Cage movie? Is it a general or is it a colonel? Who does the moving? Like who looks over the warehouses and shit? Is it a colonel?
Lieutenant Colonel or Colonel. Yeah, that's about the right rank.
Yeah. Okay.
Quartermaster.
Yeah.
It's
But even the
typically the actual.
But even the quartermaster carries a rank.
Yes, that's
No. So Colonel Oberus sounds better than
So
General Oberus.
I think it might be sergeant.
No, captain. Sorry, captain.
Captain. You're right, captain.
No,
Quartermaster.
I'm talking about the guy that can make 100,000 AKs disappear, and then tell the factory to make another 100,000 AKs because we don't
That's a
have
general.
That's a general. Okay, so
That's a general. Or if you don't want to give him quite that high of a rank, lieutenant general.
okay, I just thought there was something above a colonel.
Corporal.
That's
No,
what-
colonels are pretty high up there.
Colonel's
Yeah.
are pretty high because it goes.
Colonels are like right below generals.
Yeah, colonel.
And sergeants are below colonels.
Lieutenant